Hello, Capricorn, and welcome to Catalyst Energies. Welcome to your new moon astrology forecast. This report is for Capricorn rising, Capricorn moon, and Capricorn sun. We're going to be looking at the new moon in Pisces on March 2nd, 2022, all the way to the full moon in Virgo. That's going to be on the 18th of March, 2022. So welcome back, everyone. Welcome if you're new to this channel. Consider subscribing to the Starseed Fellowship through Subscribestar if you want to continue having access to these astrology forecasts by sign. They're being moved over to the subscriber-only platform after this new moon report. So the full moon in Virgo is going to be on a subscriber-only basis. So it's $3 a month, and you have access to all of those videos starting at the full moon, and also the Starseed Fellowship Zoom gatherings are on the quarter moons, the alternating weeks, and all of that's available to subscribers. So Capricorn, it took me a minute to really be able to articulate what I was picking up on and what I was reading from your particular chart as we go through this first half of this lunar cycle. And I think it's actually it's actually a function of what we're going to see actually at the first quarter moon. So when we get there, I will be able to expand on that a little bit more, because it was just, I was having a hard time articulating the energetics of it, of what I was feeling and the pattern I was actually feeling, and needed to be expressed, but it was like agitated or just not very settled. And I think it's a function of what you may come to experience in about a week. So Capricorn, let's start at the beginning here, because you've gone through a lot. Okay, you're going through massive identity overhaul with Capricorn in the first house, and Saturn is your ruling planet in the second house. It's in a conjunction with Mercury on the day of the Pisces new moon in your third house. But let's look at your first house just for a minute, because this is still where Venus and Mars are still in your sign. So they are, they're assessing the damage on the battlefield that Pluto has left behind. They're coming through the recently harvested fields and assessing, where things are going to, what they're going to grow next. What seeds are going to be planted next. And they've already consummated once, which was at the time of 22 to 23 degrees Capricorn in your first house. This is in some ways a recompense for the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in January 2020, where they've come together at that same point and actually acknowledged that there had been a fulfillment at some level, a balancing of accounts on some level. And now, as they travel through the rest of Capricorn and come together at 0 degrees Aquarius on the 5th of March, they're going to consummate again, right? The masculine and feminine incarnate coming together symbolically to plant new seeds in a very spiritualized, ideal Aquarian age, right? And what the spiritualized, ideal expression of civilization is, right? And it's based on all the carnage that they're assessing as they're coming in behind Pluto and actually making a conjunction to Pluto on the 3rd. So Capricorn, out of everybody, like this, the very identity of who you are is going through the same parallel overhaul as we are societally, okay? And so you have gotten so much of it, but boy, your contribution to this process, just by virtue of going through it, is massive. And who is Capricorn if not a leader, or at least a strong patriarch? And take that loosely, don't get too caught up in it. But in terms of the overall structure of Capricorn is really actually a feminine sign. It's cardinal earth. It is the machinery of nature unfolding, which is incredibly powerful. It is the most powerful. It is time itself, okay? Which is Saturn. Saturn represents Capricorn. And Capricorns are leaders. They know what it takes to get things done. And they understand that it's only in our contribution collectively that we can build anything of real, lasting security. So going through this overhaul of who you are is massive. But what is also important to realize that there are other aspects of your individual experience that are being activated, being challenged, being brought forward right now as well. So it's important to also focus on those things. So the new moon, and we'll get back to Mercury and Saturn in a second, Saturn being your ruling planet. The new moon is in your third house of your consciousness, right? And as a Capricorn person, the world around you is consciousness, right? The way that you conceptualize the world around you, knowledge, communication, expression, discovery, practice, technique, all third house, right? This is where you learn grammar and languages, but it's also where you learn how to interact with the world. It's where your consciousness is starting to grow, is the third house, is your mind and perception. So this is the area of new moon, right? And we're all kind of making a choice with this new moon. We're intending to grow in relation to a symbol that represents this really pure spiritual ideal. And Capricorn, you're in a position right now to identify that symbol with Jupiter in tow, right? That's really expanding, and there's a sense of leadership and management for sure of these mental concepts. But it's really about your consciousness being aligned with this symbolic representation of the transcendental ideal. And Neptune has been in Pisces since 2011. So it's really been bringing that spiritual journey right into your immediate consciousness, Capricorn. And, because you're going through such a massive overhaul of yourself, you can allow your mind and your personal consciousness to be the instrument of your higher self and the will of Source, right? And to be an instrument for the good of the collective, right? At a compassionate and the experience of unconditional love. Okay, so this is the area where the new moon is starting, and there will be more transits in relation to Pisces for you. But the thing that I want to bring out here is that Uranus and the North Node in your fifth house of your joy, your passion, your optimism, your play, your excitement and your glamour and your thrill, all of these, romance and stuff. It's where your heart opens, is in the fifth house. Our heart opens, heart starts pumping, sending chi and blood all through your body, and you start to be a vessel of devotion, right? That's what real passion represents. And it hasn't been very stable here, but if it wasn't for Uranus glitching the matrix of what is, we wouldn't even realize that there is the fact that it's not even stable or settled, right? That the reality is actually maybe a digital overlay, perhaps, or that the perspectives or the desires of our own sense of self are infinite, and maybe we're just window shopping right now, but we wouldn't even realize there were more than one window to shop in terms of reality. And for you, Capricorn, in terms of your own passion and joy, if it wasn't for Uranus, consistently glitching and shifting the landscape and, having to think outside of the box and be innovative about things. And I feel like that for the Capricorn person, this new moon and with Jupiter along with it, really very optimistic, very expansive, and very spiritual. Consciousness has the potential to be activated by an investment from Uranus that actually rules your second house. So even though there is instability in terms of your creative expression, it is letting you know that there are infinite options of what can be who you are as this vessel. And when you're going through a massive change of personality like Capricorn is, of course these things are going to change too. Everything along the way is going to change. You will find though that there are some things that don't change, and Saturn is going to be a big part of this conversation because of it. It's not only your rules Capricorn, it's also going to stabilize everyone emotionally in a moment where we might find ourselves doubting that commitment or that intention that we've aligned with in the third house. So, but Capricorn, the North Node is in your fifth house as well, in conjunction with the Pleiades. Like, to be in alignment with natural rhythm, to find inherent value in just being and what's around you and to be in alignment with this as part of your heart opening and your own pleasure and your own expression of passion is really the area of your soul's evolution right now. So you wouldn't even realize that there are options without Uranus. And so this is a very transformative sextile for you in your own consciousness, knowing that your voice and your expression and your identification and your creative expression is able to change. And I think that can be really hard for Capricorn, because you're just so settled on what you know needs to get done that the area of these things can be it's very stable, because it's Taurus and very fertile. It's fertile ground, and it's like the medium of our growth, but you don't realize that it actually is also subject to change, unless something like Uranus is like, hey, by the way, like, I'm literally shifting around what it means for you to express who you are, because you're going through a massive overhaul of who you are. But this is also where you're evolving. It's reestablishing, innovating, even in terms of, your passion and what really drives you. What are you devoted to? And I think this opens up when we make this commitment, okay? And it has a lot to do with the resources that never do change. And have Saturn in your second house, that really is saying, like, there's some serious inertia with resources, things that hardly ever change, things that have been habits for generations, but also, too, the social capital that the Capricorn knows is its real value, the people. Humanity is the real value for the Capricorn person. And so having your ruler there is exceptionally important right now. So, man, Capricorn, oh boy, let's look at the first quarter moon and because Saturn's part of this conversation. We are looking at the moon in the sixth house, and this is where it got a little agitated, and I think it took me a minute to figure out maybe why. So you have the moon in the sixth house, which is the house of getting your shit together. And for the Capricorn person, there needs to be this mutability of ideas when it comes to analysis or in terms of your works and your service. And the ability to play in the realm of the mind is something that the Capricorn person seems to be drawn to. These are both sixth house and Gemini are both Mercury ruled. So keep that in mind, because Mercury is going to be a big part of this conversation too, over the course of the next 2 weeks. But it's also in this moon in the second house, becoming increasingly more and more sensitive to the need for one to really master themselves and to really initiate or participate in a structure, a practice, a routine, habits, your works, your labors, right? Your labors and what you're doing on the daily with yourself. Maybe it's a healing process. There's usually some sort of crisis that will stimulate or trigger a sixth house thing. And it's really very subtle because, well, maybe not so subtle because you have Black Moon Lilith here too, but the moon is here. And I think that the sensitivity to the daily activity, the daily realm, and daily activity and the habits, routines, and the process of purification and reconstitution is, I think that there's a real potential here to overanalyze some things out of a control mechanism, if that makes sense, because of Black Moon Lilith and the moon, right? A primal urge to reach out past something that is already established, but also at the same time to, you'll never even realize that there's something to reach out to if you don't even allow yourself the opportunity to engage with the multiplicity of options in this realm. And this is in terms of analysis and organization of your time, Capricorn, and what you're doing with your time. And if you I think the challenge for all of us is the fact that we've intended with the new moon to align ourselves with a particular symbolic representation, an avatar, to become the avatar in some ways of the spiritual ideal. And then when it's challenged for the first time by our own progression of feeling. Remember, the quarter moon is not the full emotional picture. It's half illuminated. So do we trust and do we fully surrender to the spiritual ideal that we are identifying ourselves with and stepping into that role? Because if we do, then we will have no doubt that when the time is right, everything will come together, and we'll all be, everybody that we're joined with, we will come together and sit at the table together. That's the symbol. But the moon in Gemini is like, no, I'm just going to sit down and start eating now, because look at all of the options in front of me of ideas and concepts and everything I could imagine or even just think about, conceptualize. I'm just going to pile it all on. I'm not waiting for everybody else, right? And I think that Capricorn, you're going to try to, like, act out this agitation or this impatience, and feel a sense of urgency in some ways to not only engage with all of the multiplicity of ideas in terms of what you're doing every day or how you are spending your time. Wow, I feel like that. I feel like this is gonna be a defense mechanism in trying to control some aspects of what you can control in an effort to bypass or not have to confront the friction or the challenge of what it means to actually surrender one's consciousness as an instrument of God's will or your higher self. And when it comes to how that unfolds in the daily life, I think that you're gonna kind of want to not trust that process and find a way in your actions and in, how you're utilizing your resources to kind of soothe yourself. And you're very sensitive to needing to do something. I think that's really how it's going to come out, because it's Capricorn. You're like, I got to do something, right? I don't need to eat right now, but all this food's in front of me, so emotionally, so I'm just going to pile it into my daily experience. Ooh, Capricorn, don't overload yourself, even though there's something to be said here in terms of our deeper self needing to establish some sort of contact outside of ourself. There's something important about that, but we don't want to jump the gun. Right? We don't want to fill up at the buffet before we already all made plans to eat together. Oh boy. Just try not to overdo it, Capricorn. This is what you kind of do in order to self-soothe. So it's going to be your ruler that absolutely grounds you in your mind, stabilizes the thoughts and the mental energy, because it's your ruler, Saturn, that is in a trine to the moon at the very same time. That's just don't worry. There's something in terms of what is, right, and what is established in a very material way that is going to allow some hope. It's going to give you some hope and security in that hope, while your moon and black moon Lilith in particular are just trying to find security in the everyday activity by just loading up on concepts, communications, ideas. It's a lot of communication and mental activity. Just realize that you already have everything that you need inherently. And in fact, it's going to be that recognition that's going to be very grounding for your mind at this time, especially with the sun squaring the moon at the same time. So when we move on, let's see here, Capricorn, boy, oh boy, we're going to move on to the full moon. Because again, your mind and your higher mind are the real focus of this full moon, not to mention the nodal axis, again, of 5th and 11th, okay? So we're going to talk about both of these things. You can even see here that we're in, there's a kite here with Pluto. So Pluto's still in your sign, Capricorn, and is going to go retrograde over the next number of months, right? And we're going to pass over this point right now, this Pluto return time, July and in December. So it's still in your sign, Capricorn. So there's still plenty of transformational energy and experiences to go into. But especially at that level of like the actual walls of the aviary being just demolished and all the birds escaping, right? That's what it represents. It provides security and safety from the outside, but you're still trapped from the inside. It's a very interesting symbol that is the power of the United States as a nation. So, and the power that it can be extracted at a soul level. So anyway, that's in the Starseeds Guide to Pluto Return, which is relevant to you considering that Pluto's in your sign right now. But it's in this full moon that when you have a moon in the ninth house in general, there's a tendency to really be kind of like a seer or an oracle in some ways, where you're really tapping into the pattern of that people as a whole, or the people in your relationships, for instance, are deriving their meaning from, and able to have a very intuitive connection to that, and almost like speak for it, and be able to be like a mouthpiece in some ways for the pattern of meaning that is part of the belief systems that you as an individual are operating within. This full moon is going to show the Capricorn person, it's a culmination point at the full moon of complete illumination and reflection back emotionally to us, that aspects that we don't often really see because we're just feeling them. But these are going to be really feeling them very obviously. How we feel within the collective belief system. Are we going to be able to seize control of our own emotional state in the realm of the mystical journey, or the exotic, or just the intensity and the meaning of our collective value system? Is it going to is it emotionally, do we have the capacity, especially as Capricorn, within this to kind of hold our own and our own internal integrity as there's a crisis in terms of belief and belief system and meaning and collective value is, what entire nations and governments and institutions are built on. It is the realm of alchemy in the ninth house. And so it is foreign travel. It's mystical travel, shamanic journeying. It is something that is beyond your just knowledge. It's understanding. And so as the understanding is going through maybe some sort of crisis that seems like a crisis, but really is the unity of light coming through a prism and refracting into all its multiplicity, but it's going to seem like separation, right? And it's going to be in your mind, right? Is this function of your mind what is it going to do to your emotional state when that is like seemingly destroying the belief systems or the religions or the philosophies of life that you are involved with, Capricorn? I think this is, just keep this in mind when it's in this kite with Pluto as well, and the North Node and the Sun all at the same time. Now, Neptune also is going to be in a relationship with the nodal axis, which for Capricorn is along your individuality, your authenticity versus the societal energy and the societal climate and the social environment as a whole. Now, South Node has been there. You've been there. Things about society as a whole are going to surface that have been maybe in the shadows. This is not about the social environment for you, Capricorn, right now. Your soul is evolving in the realm of your own joy, your own passion, your own creative expression, okay? And when you become very keen and aware of your dharma, meaning your limitations as well, when you surrender completely to this process, you release some energy. It's not even a release. It allows you to centralize your energy and put it towards that purpose. And that's going to very much open up and activate the collective soul's evolution, right? It's going to give the purpose in your fifth house. It's going to be so much stronger, and it's going to really be an investment. Now, if we do nothing with this awareness, it's still going to be stabilizing this past, this X-ray vision of our past view. It's being very aware of our own dharma at the most spiritual level that will, in fact, allow for this. Well, it's not necessarily, it's like an X-ray, right? We're going to be able to see beyond the structure, beyond the surface into the structural aspects of the society, Capricorn, of the past. And maybe there's some secrets that come up. Maybe there's some ugliness that surfaces. That's absolutely possible. And in terms of your own mind, your own communication, your knowledge, your perception, if you become very aware of your dharma and your dharma of your consciousness at a spiritual level, yeah, it's going to be like this X-ray. It's going to elicit this X-ray and it'll stabilize. But what it also will do is allow for an investment and an activation into your soul's evolution in the realm of your own joy. It's, it's not going to be easy to have to hold space for this, but it's also going to be so freeing to allow yourself to just, be in that stream of flow towards just enjoying being, right? Just finding joy and finding passion and really being devoted to just existing, and not like surviving, but thriving, right? And really being invested in being here, Capricorn. And I know that that's difficult considering all that you're going through, but you are going also the evolution of yourself in your passion and really who you actually are is just amazing to behold. So that's going to be it for Capricorn. If you are interested in a reading or energy work to support your process, you can go to my website, catalystenergies.net. That's in the description box below. Everything else is in the description box below. Subscribestar, Telegram, the link to register for the free Astrology Summit. There's information about that as well. So Capricorn, the next time I'll see you is at the full moon in Virgo. So I mean, if there's one thing a Capricorn is, it is strong and stable. So, just know everything you need is already here and it's already like part of the infrastructure of reality. So no worries. Allow yourself to transform and allow your voice to get louder or to maybe find a new expression of yourself, because that's where all the action is for you, Capricorn. So take care of yourselves. I truly appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you on the next video.